Let's clear up a bizarre rumor that's been floating around the internet, one that's as strange as it is untrue. Some people have actually claimed that there's a ban on women wearing clothes in Chile. It sounds wild, right? But let's set the record straight, because the truth is far more interesting and much more important than any viral myth. There's absolutely no ban on women wearing clothes in Chile. In fact, Chilean women, just like women everywhere else in the world, express themselves through their clothing every single day. From the bustling streets of Santiago to the quiet corners of small towns, you'll see women dressed in everything from the latest fashion trends to traditional attire and everything in between. The real story isn't about what Chileans are forbidden to wear, but about what the world throws away. Chile has become an unexpected destination for the world's unwanted clothing. Every year, thousands of tons of used garments, unsold fast fashion, and textile waste are shipped here from across the globe. These clothes don't end up in closets. They end up in landfills, deserts, and open spaces, creating a crisis that's both environmental and social. Chilean women, like everyone else, dress freely and with style. They take pride in their appearance, blending global trends with local flair. Fashion is a form of self-expression, and in Chile, you'll find a vibrant mix of colors, fabrics, and influences. The streets are alive with creativity, individuality, and confidence. But while people are free to wear what they want, the real crisis is about discarded clothing, mountains of it, piling up in Chile's deserts. The Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth, has become a dumping ground for the world's textile waste. Here, you'll find endless heaps of shirts, pants, and dresses left to rot under the scorching sun. This isn't a tale of restriction, but of overwhelming waste. The sheer volume of discarded clothing is staggering, and it's growing every year. These textiles don't just disappear, they linger for decades, leaching chemicals into the soil and polluting the air. The environmental impact is devastating, affecting local communities and fragile ecosystems. Imagine a place where clothes go not to be worn, but to die. The landscape is transformed by mounds of fabric, zippers, and buttons, stretching as far as the eye can see. It's a haunting sight, a graveyard for garments that once held promise, now abandoned and forgotten. The true clothing crisis in Chile is about what's underfoot, endless piles of unwanted garments. These clothes, many of which were worn only once or never at all, now form a toxic layer on the earth. They're a stark reminder of our throwaway culture and the hidden costs of fast fashion. It's a story of global excess, environmental injustice, and a landscape suffering under the weight of our cast-offs. The problem isn't about what Chileans can or cannot wear. It's about how the world's appetite for cheap, disposable fashion is creating a disaster that Chile is left to deal with. Let's leave the myths behind and face the real catastrophe, one written in faded labels and synthetic fibers buried in Chilean soil. The next time you hear a rumor about clothing in Chile, remember, the truth is not about bans, but about the urgent need to rethink how we value, use, and dispose of our clothes. The Atacama Desert, once a place of ancient beauty, stretches for hundreds of miles beneath a vast, cloudless sky. For centuries, this land was known for its stark, otherworldly landscapes, its salt flats, its wind-carved rocks, and its silence, broken only by the whisper of the wind. The Atacama is one of the driest places on Earth, a place where life clings on in the harshest of conditions, and where the stars at night seem close enough to touch. But beneath this timeless beauty, the desert now hides a shocking secret, one that has crept in quietly, almost unnoticed, until it could no longer be ignored. In hidden corners and open plains alike, new mountains have begun to rise, not of ancient stone, but of discarded clothing tossed aside by a world obsessed with the new and the now. Imagine hills made entirely of jeans, t-shirts, and dresses, their colors faded by the relentless sun, their fabrics slowly breaking down in the sand. These garments have traveled thousands of miles, crossing oceans and continents, only to end up here, far from the people who once wore or made them. By 2022, an estimated 40,000 tons of clothing had been dumped here, smothering the fragile desert ecosystem under a suffocating blanket of waste. The sheer scale is staggering, enough to cover entire neighborhoods, enough to be seen from the sky. These are the ghosts of fast fashion, the unwanted, the unsold, the out of style. Each piece tells a story of fleeting trends and forgotten promises, of factories working overtime and resources spent for a moment's satisfaction. The Atacama has become a global cemetery for our fleeting desires, a final resting place for the world's cast-off clothing. Here, the evidence of our throwaway culture is impossible to ignore. Each garment represents wasted resources, thousands of liters of water, hours of human labor, and vast amounts of energy, all ending their journey half buried in sand, labels from every corner of the globe still visible. The desert's delicate balance is being destroyed. Its soil is compacted and suffocated, its fragile plants and animals threatened by chemicals and microplastics leaching from synthetic fabrics. What was once a sanctuary for rare life is now a toxic graveyard. What was once pristine is now a toxic wasteland, a haunting symbol of our throwaway culture and the true cost of fast fashion. The transformation is stark, and the damage may be irreversible. The secret is out, and it's a shameful one. A warning written in fabric and sand for all the world to see. How does the world's unwanted wardrobe end up in Chile's desert? It starts when we donate used clothes or retailers dump unsold stock. These garments are shipped to Iquique, a duty-free port in northern Chile. Importers buy bales, hoping to resell the best items across Latin America. But most of the clothes are poor quality, damaged, or hopelessly out of style. Legal disposal is expensive and facilities are lacking. The tragic solution? Dumping the surplus illegally in the desert. The Atacama becomes the world's closet, a dumping ground for fast fashion's failures. Well-meaning donations and overproduction feed this disaster. The system meant to give clothes a second life is creating an environmental catastrophe. Good intentions have gone terribly wrong. The environmental damage caused by textile waste is truly staggering, and its impact stretches far beyond what the eye can see. Every year, millions of tons of unwanted clothing are shipped from around the world and dumped in remote places like the Atacama Desert in Chile. These vast, forgotten landscapes have become the final resting place for the world's fast fashion excess. Towering mountains of discarded textiles smother the desert, blocking sunlight and suffocating the delicate habitats that once thrived here. The sheer volume of waste is overwhelming, creating artificial hills of fabric that stretch for miles, altering the natural landscape and making it nearly impossible for native plants and animals to survive. Most of these clothes are made from synthetic fabrics like polyester and nylon. Unlike natural fibers, these materials don't biodegrade. Instead, they slowly break down into tiny fragments known as microplastics, which are invisible to the naked eye but have a massive impact on the environment. Carried by the relentless desert winds and seasonal rains, these microplastic particles spread far and wide, contaminating the soil and seeping into precious water sources. Over time, they enter the food chain, affecting not just wildlife, but also the people who depend on these ecosystems. The desert is being salted with plastic, a legacy of pollution that will last for generations. Each fiber and fragment becomes part of the earth, impossible to remove, and destined to outlast us all. Toxic dyes and chemicals used in clothing production leach into the ground, poisoning the soil and water. These pollutants threaten not only wildlife, but also the health of local communities who rely on these resources for survival. The Atacama Desert, once a vibrant ecosystem, is now treated like a rubbish bin for the world's unwanted clothes. Its fragile environment is devastated, with native vegetation dying off and animal populations dwindling. What we throw away never truly disappears. Instead, it scars someone else's land, leaving behind a trail of destruction that is often hidden from view, but impossible to ignore for those who live nearby. The vibrant colors of discarded clothes may look striking against the desert's arid backdrop, but they hide a toxic secret. Beneath the surface, chemicals and plastics are slowly poisoning the earth. Every garment dumped here is a stark reminder of the true cost of fast fashion. Each piece represents not just wasted resources, but also the environmental and social consequences of our throwaway culture. The consequences are devastating and long-lasting. The land is left barren, wildlife is pushed to the brink, and the damage will persist for decades, if not centuries. Our waste is poisoning a fragile world, and unless we change our habits, the scars we leave behind will only deepen, threatening the future of these precious environments and the people who depend on them. Dumping isn't the only problem. Burning the clothing piles is even worse. Fires are set to reduce the mountains of waste, sending toxic smoke into the desert air. Burning synthetic fabrics releases poisonous gases and carcinogens. Residents of nearby towns breathe this contaminated air, suffering health problems. The pollution spreads far and wide, settling on land and water. The Atacama's famously clean air is now fouled by our discarded fashions. Burning also releases greenhouse gases, linking fast fashion directly to climate change. Every burning pile is a symbol of a much larger crisis. The planet is choking on our waste. This crisis is deeply human. Communities near Alto Hospicio live with the pollution, their health and land at risk. Fires fill their homes with foul-smelling smoke. Parents fear for their children's safety. Some residents scavenge the piles for salvageable items, risking their health for a meager income. The injustice is profound. Those least responsible suffer the most. These are the human faces of fast fashion's fallout. Their stories demand empathy and change. When we throw something away, it becomes someone else's burden. Amid the crisis, local heroes are fighting back. Franklin Zapita's company, Ecofibra, turns textile waste into insulation panels for homes. This circular solution cleans up the desert and creates sustainable building materials. It's a small-scale effort, but a powerful symbol of hope and innovation. Authorities are cracking down, issuing fines and increasing surveillance to stop illegal dumping. These efforts show growing awareness and determination. But local heroes can't solve a global problem alone. The fight for the Atacama's future needs international cooperation and industry accountability. Their resistance is a beacon of hope. The world must pay attention and act. The Atacama's crisis starts in our closets and shopping habits. Fast fashion encourages us to buy cheap, disposable clothes, fueling overproduction and waste. Brands churn out endless styles, tempting us to consume more than we need. Most garments are worn only a few times before being discarded. Every purchase supports a system that dumps its waste in places like Chile. Our choices have global consequences. We can change the system by buying less, choosing better, and supporting sustainable brands. Repair, swap, and buy secondhand to reduce waste. Conscious consumers can help turn off the tap of textile pollution. Our closets and the Atacama's crisis are two sides of the same coin. Despite the scale of the problem, there is hope. Local innovators are turning waste into new products, showing the power of circular thinking. Upcycling and creative reuse are planting seeds for a new, sustainable economy. Awareness is growing, pressuring brands and governments to act. As consumers, we can demand transparency and care about our clothes' full life cycle. Change starts with rejecting fast fashion and valuing durability and repair. The Atacama's crisis is a warning and an invitation to build a better future. Together, we can mend the damage and ensure our clothes enrich lives without costing the earth.